Last week we started the Final Fantasy VIII Remastered Let's Play, and I was nice I made some jokes, but in general I just tried to enjoy the experience, and I'm still enjoying the experience. I didn't want to go too far into like what I thought about the actual remaster because it just came out, and I wanted to let it kind of sink in a bit. So it's been a week and it's sunken in. And let me tell you, it's not good. A lot of people are complaining about this remaster. Now, to be fair, this remaster is great for us. We've always wanted to play Final Fantasy VIII. This is a great way for us to play it. It's great for the channel. We get to enjoy Final Fantasy VIII together. Like, it's great for us, right? But in general, in terms of remasters, this one is pretty poopy for a lot of different reasons. And the general consensus is that they were just lazy. And I don't know if lazy is the right word, because I'm not trying to say like legitimately people that work at Square are lazy, but there's an obvious amount of like they just did not put a lot of work into this. It was more about getting it out fast rather than putting a lot of work into it. Which, if it just appeared overnight, like, hey, by the way, guys, here's this Final Fantasy VIII remaster, it'd be less annoying. But the fact that they announced it at E3 and made like a big deal about it, and then it ends up being a really kind of lazy remaster is frustrating. And there's a lot of different things, first of all, the upscaling is not great. Like, Squall looks good, but, I mean, he better look good. He's the friggin' main character. Everyone else looks okay. Like, certainly it could have been better, but I'm not going to complain too much about that, because I don't upscale models. Like, we could ask Suna. He upscales models. We could ask him what he thinks of the upscaling, but for me, like, it looks fine. The biggest problem is the backgrounds. The backgrounds are not upscaled. So they look better than they did back on your old PS1, PS2, because the console's going through HDMI and, instead of crappy composite cables on a giant CRT TV, you're looking at it through 1080p HDMI on a nice 1080p monitor. But the actual backgrounds are not upscaled. If you play the Steam version, which is just a hard port of the PS1 version, sort of. It's not actually a hard port because they lost the code, but for all intents and purposes, it's a hard port. The backgrounds look just as good. So they didn't take the time to actually upscale the backgrounds at all. It's only the models that got upscaled. So that's kind of strike number one. Strike two is that the upscaling itself is incredibly lazy. We saw that last week where Sid was part of the background for some reason and looked super blurry. And there's apparently a lot of other places where they missed little spots here and there. So the upscaling itself, which is the only thing this thing has, is the upscaling and the cheats, is lazy. So when the one thing that you were doing is lazy, it's kind of frustrating. So that's strike number two. Strike number three, there's been a lot of bugs reported. There's the MIDI bug that people are reporting, where sometimes the game plays MIDI music instead of the regular music, which baffles me, because why would the MIDI music even be in here? First of all, why wouldn't you just replace the files rather than move them? Like, I don't know, understand how that even works. And then there's been some other bugs reported. I don't know. Maybe we'll run into some. If they're super rampant, then we'll run into some. If they're not, then it's just a couple people complaining. It's not a big deal. But there really should, hopefully it's stuff they'll fix, but who knows if they'll even fix it because the game's already out. So that's frustrating as well. For me, I think maybe one of the biggest things that frustrates me about this port is that they just didn't do anything else, like these remasters always frustrate me because it feels like they could do more with them, and they just don't. You know? Like, take, for example, legitimately any Blu-ray you've ever bought, right? What do they always have on Blu-rays? It's, you know, behind the scenes, or some kind of, like, visual, you know, concept art, or just something they got from the making of the movie, or the making of the... Even if they don't have, like, for example, in the Blu-rays, the Disney Blu-rays, where they take, like, old movies and refresh them for Blu-ray. Sometimes they don't have anything from the old movie because the movie's too old, but then they'll include stuff about the Blu-ray, and they'll include, like, videos about them upscaling and how they did the upscaling process. And that's super, like, interesting to me. I love watching stuff like that. I actually did a report back in college about upscaling and how it works and how we keep film through the ages. So, like, that stuff's really cool. And with these remasters, with 7, 8, 9, 10, all of them, 10 at least had some stuff, but they don't add anything like that. Like, why is there not something in the menu, in the main menu, that's just like extras, and you just get a little bit of extra stuff? Like, why not? I understand that people don't like when you mess with the game too much. Like the Final Fantasy VII port, for example, they removed the magic defense bug because not a lot of people knew about that, and it helps kind of make the game more balanced. But they kept in the W item glitch, even though that breaks the game, because it's a fun glitch to do. So they understand that they don't want to change the game too much. Even if it was broken back then, they're going to keep it broken now because people want the original experience, right? But there's no reason why there shouldn't be some kind of extras in the menu just to give us something bonus. You know, instead it's just a literal, like, here's the game, that's it. You know, one thing I was thinking about last night, why is there not a triple triad minigame on the main menu? Could you imagine if we had, like, new game continue options, and then there was, like, triple triad arena, and you click that, and it's just, like, every triple triad person in the game, and you can just pick one and just play triple triad against them. And maybe you can customize the rules also. And maybe you can choose one of your save files and import your cards. Or maybe it starts off, you just get a pack of cards, and then you have to win the cards, and it's like an extra bonus mode where you can only get the cards in that mode. Like, why not do something like that? 90% of the code's already there. Literally all you have to do is just make the menu that says, here's the opponents. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it would be so easy to just do something a little extra like that to give us incentive to buy the game. I mean, like, literally the only incentive to buy this game is if you don't already have the Steam version, or you just want upscaled models. Upscaled models for $20. That's basically what you're looking at, and the cheats. So, like, if you don't care about the cheats and you don't care about the upscaled models, there's no reason to buy this. Whereas if they just added one little extra thing, like, oh, here's this little bonus minigame, then there'd be, like, so much more incentive to buy it. So that's just my spiel. And then the final straw, you know, we already have the 3 strikes. The final straw is not only did they botch the remaster in terms of the music and the models and the backgrounds and all that, but then on top of that, they needlessly censor multiple things in the game. And that just blows my mind, because, like, you could say, okay, well, they didn't do the backgrounds because they didn't want to put any work into it, and they didn't do any mini games because they didn't want to put any work into it. But they put in work just to censor stuff, and there's no explanation as to why. It blows my mind. I'm still completely lost as to why. First of all, Siren is censored, but Shiva isn't. What's with that? Second of all, this game was rated T, and Final Fantasy XV is rated T, and they did way more risque stuff in that game, and it's HD, 480p, you know, what, not 480p, 1080p, 4K graphics, and they got giant bazongas in that game. So, like, what is the deal? Why would, who is pressuring Final Fantasy, like, who is pressuring Square Enix to censor stuff in this game? I understand if they censored stuff in Kingdom Hearts, if Disney was like, hey, what are you doing? This is a kid's game. This is Disney. You can't be doing that. That I understand. Who's pressuring Square Enix to censor Final Fantasy VIII Remastered? There's no one. It doesn't exist. There's no person that was calling up Sony and they're like, listen, I loved Final Fantasy VIII back in the day, but I want my kids to experience Final Fantasy VIII, but I don't want them to play the version I had. I want them to play the version you're making now, but I want you to censor the stuff that I saw back then. No one's doing that. That doesn't exist. That, like, in Final Fantasy 15 and all the games they're making now, like, they'll do whatever they want, but then they're going to go back and censor this game, put in extra work. That's what blows my mind. Put in extra work to censor stuff in this game when they didn't put in any other work to do anything else in the game. Like, you know, so it's... This remaster is very baffling, and I cannot give it a good rating. Luckily, it's great for us. It's a great thing for us. We get to play Final Fantasy VIII and enjoy it, and if we see some goofy things with the remaster, we can meme about it, and it'll be fun, and I'm still looking forward to playing through it. But if I were to give this remaster like a rating out of 10 in terms of remasters, it's sitting at a 2 for me. Like, this is terrible. I mean, there's so many things that they could have done better, you know? Like, it's a bad remaster. We'll leave it at that. If you want to think about it in this way, like, it's Final Fantasy VIII for $20. So, you know, it's worth it if you want Final Fantasy VIII for $20. I don't think it's a bad purchase, but at the end of the day, like, it's a bad remaster, you know?